So yeah, this is a tier list made by Music Man. Music Man is a top X hunter. I was literally scouring the internet for fucking content, and I was just here like, yeah, I want to see this shit. So, all right, but yeah, I want to react to this tier list, and chat, like I say with everything that I do, this is not for hate. This is not for like to make fun of people. This is literally just to see a exchange in perspectives. Nothing more, nothing less. That is literally it. I am not trying to like start issues with people. I'm not trying to have problems. This is just for opinions and to see where we coming out. When did this video come out? This video came out today. No, yesterday. This video came out yesterday. Also, yeah, I'm on the fucking podcast side of shit, so I'ma just, for the sake of my OCD, I'ma just turn that off. This video came out today. I mean, yesterday. So, yeah. We're gonna be reacting to this. No music, obviously, because, you know, we actually want to listen to his things. We'll be seeing a Zeus apology in the community. The day I apologize is the day I got bitched out by someone. I will not apologize for any content that I make unless I am genuinely offensive or I say some insensitive shit. Does Zeus, I reacted to the Hunter tier list. Wait, why is Gamekeeper bad, right? I'm crying. Alright, let's start. How's the volume, chat?
There are a lot of people that have been
and I want everyone to pay attention to what he said in the beginning. Everyone, pay attention again.
Okay, guys, welcome to my competitive tier list.
Competitive, it's low. Okay, I'm putting that bitch at max volume. I'm putting that bitch at max volume. He said competitive. This is gonna be competitive. Okay, so I'm gonna be extremely critical about this shit. I'm going to be very critical. Oh, hi, Zeus.
So there are a lot of people that have been.
How's the volume now?
As far as hunters to pick, as far as rank goes, but the way this tier list is going to work is I'm going to be ranking the hunters based on how I see them fit on the competitive scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. I have
Should be louder.
Different rank.
Give me a sec.
The S tier are the meta hunters right now. A tier are the strong hunters to be used in later rounds.
Just like
intro,
okay.
Survivors, starting with Hell Ember. Now, the reason why Ember does not function very well on the competitive scene is
while this is happening, I'm gonna order food.
We all know, Ember
chat, what we thinking? Chipotle?
Very weak early game. Pretty much no matter how the Ember plays, the Ember is going to struggle in finding it down before the first 3 ciphers are popped. Now, Ember does have one of the best, if not the best,
rotate
in the game. But at the end of the day, in this meta, a lot of times that leads to losing setups if at best you're going to be getting it down before the first 3 pops. Because if you are not getting it down before the first 3 pops are up, then you're not going to be able to function very well to recover a match, because then the survivors will just not rescue, and at best you're going to be getting a tie out of a situation like that, if not completely losing. So next on the tier list, I have Nightmare here.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie. I'm about to. This shit is about to be put in 2x speed, and I'm skipping straight to like the B tier section of the tier list, because like I don't think we need to know why Hell Ember all the way through Violinist and even Wu Chang are B tier and C tier.
Chase is just not it. He's able to get.
Do you consider? Hold on, yeah. Do you consider instant rescuing against a Hell Ember to be a good thing? More or less. I guess it's like I wouldn't consider instant rescuing against him simply because it's just an easier presence farm for him at the end of the day. But you also obviously, you know, you can't wait too fucking late before he just spawns like 3 things. So like I'd say a perfect middle ground is like you should be rescuing around the 20 to 30% mark on the chair. It's still a little bit early, but you don't want to risk anything. So yeah, I'm gonna just skip to the B tier section of the tier list because I don't think we need to know why of fucking Wu Chang and Hell Ember through Wu Chang are like not that great. To be honest, I don't think we need to.
Hunters, which are situational hunters or surprise picks. So a lot of these hunters will be used if you're looking to counter a certain comp, they're also very, very
Hating on the length of the video?
specialized
Bro,
hunters,
I
so
love
play
long
these
videos,
hunters.
but I just
A
don't
lot
think
of
we need
times
to
they'll
sit
be
through 9 minutes and, like,
specific
we already know
hunter
why
for
these hunters are
given
in
hunter,
to D. Like, there's no
used
real
most
dispute
often
about that.
in rounds 2 or 3, with some exceptions in here. But at the bottom of this tier, I decided to put Sculptor. Sculptor is one of my favorite
Sculptor, really?
competitive. Sculptor used
Hold
to
on,
be...
wait, hold on. He has Sculptor below Axe Boy, Lizard, Mad Eyes, Fool's Gold, Weaver. Okay, Weaver I can let slide, but no, Sculptor's not below them.
There was a good chunk of time when Sculptor...
Whoa, wait a second. Why the fuck is Clown higher than Dream Witch? And okay.
Upon release, there were a series of nerfs to Sculptor Spike, and then eventually...
Okay, because I can only assume this is because he's doing it off of win rates, and if this is off win rates, then by definition this is correct, but... Oh, that Terror Shock was filthy, actually. Wait, that Terror Shock was actually filthy, I'm not gonna lie. That Merc got played with.
Reactable and greatly decrease Sculptor's ability to snowball a match. Now, the reason why Sculptor is still strong is that she does still have that spike, which gives her a little bit of map pressure. In addition to this, she has a somewhat decent early game chase, and if you're able to get a really solid early game, you can actually, in combination with the map pressure, can lead to some really, really strong games. She does require max presence to be at full power there. Once she gets full presence, she's very, very strong.
If this is off with the win rates and whatnot, then I can understand Sculptor being this low, yeah. Because, yeah, like Z said, she performed horribly this Koa. So, like, honestly, if she's gonna be B tier competitively, then, I can allow it. Clown, though? Fuck no.
Is another common build. I like to use this on large maps. And also the traditional detention trump card blink is also a viable pick for this hunter.
Damn, full presence.
A little bit more difficult to play. Up next we have Axe Boy.
Axe
Boy is one of those hunters that doesn't come out in competitive too frequently, but he is still a hunter that I think...
Yeah, this is comp. This is comp.
In competitive, if you know how to play him very, very well. Now, Axe Boy used to be, like, upon release, one of the worst characters in the game. Like, he would be D tier just because you could rotate away from the trees and you had nothing to do. You would have no way to actually catch up to the survivors if they rotate properly.
You just gave a free rescue.
But now Axe Boy has the purple souls that follow the survivors and actually can lead to some really scary early game situations. His early game chase can be very, very good, and in competitive can be used a lot of times to fight for his high. Perhaps not quite as effectively as some of the hunters that are in A tier, but Axe Boy is still a solid character pick given the situation. Up next we have Evil Reptilian. Now Reptilian is one of those hunters that...
Wait, that's the explanation for Axe Boy? Wait, what?
Character pick. Hunters that are in A tier, but Axe Boy is still a solid character pick.
So his explanation is just he's just an early game chase hunter?
Up next we have
Reptilian. Sure.
Now Reptilian is one of those hunters that used to be quite bad, but recently got a really nice buff, which made his max presence so that he would be able to get unlimited jumps. The one downside to Lizard is that sometimes the early game can be really rough, but there are some situations where Reptilian can be used in competitive to get a slight edge, particularly during a round 3 situation. Can have a decent early game,
he's not saying anything that's wrong.
There are many situations where the early game is going to be a little bit tough to get that first down, particularly if the comp has a lot of stunners, which is what Reptilian is a little bit weak to get against, but still a solid character pick. In addition to those limited jumps, they also
I need to order my food
to help Lizard have some semblance of map control and mobility. Now, Mad Eyes is a very, very interesting hunter to put in here. Mad Eyes is a hunter that is very, very strong in the right hands, but is also one of the most difficult hunters to play in the game. Now, Mad Eyes is one of the trappiest hunters in this game. There are a lot of traps that you can set up with the walls. Being a former Espage Mad Eyes myself, it's very important to know all of your setups that you can do. the thing about Mad Eyes is that he's very, very map dependent. That's the first thing. And
Wouldn't
the
that...
early game can sometimes be very rough. In addition to this, at the...
So, he's map dependent, and his early game can be rough. Were those not the things that, like, you stated with Hellember that would, like, make him D tier? Because, like, I know we saw, like, Dream perform as Mad Eyes, but, like, what happened to Dream after everyone realized he was just a Mad Eyes player and nothing else? Like, they just kept destroying him.
The competitive level, Mad Eyes can be counter-comped. Now,
you acknowledge... Wait, no! So you just acknowledged it, what?
The comps that Mad Eyes are weak against, there are a lot of other hunters in the meta that are very, very strong against those kinds of counter comps. So Mad Eyes can be a very useful hunter to bait out certain comps in competitive, but Mad Eyes, a lot of times, as we saw RD Dream this Koa struggling a little bit against some of the Survivor comps. If the Survivors are at...
Struggling a little bit. That man didn't win a match after the first 2 days. What are we talking about? A little bit. He got destroyed. That's not... Mad Eyes shouldn't be here, bro. Mad Eyes needs to be right down there with fucking Hellember, bro. I'm sorry. One trick Mad Eyes, like, Mad Eyes is great and all in the right hands, but literally the second people figure out that you play Mad Eyes, it's over for you. And if it's competitive where people already know what you play because people study each other and they know each other's teams, like, that's not happening. They're gonna already expect, like, they're already gonna know, like, what to expect from a Mad Eyes player, so they're always gonna just counter comp your Mad Eyes, and that's it.
Adequately prepared, Mad Eyes can be very, very tough to play.
Joseph reasoning, I mean, I could imagine the Joseph reasoning was just something along the lines of, he's a communication hunter that has virtually no chase aside from hoping that the Survivors make mistakes and blink. So it's like, yeah, that's all he is.
But again, Mad Eyes is one of those more rare hunters that you're more likely going to go against Survivors that will not have adequate prep to go against this hunter, which is what makes him very, very strong. In addition to this, if you're able to get one of the early game traps by a mistake of the Survivors, it can lead to some very, very scary situations, especially if Mad Eyes gets one of the chairs that he's able to camp out very, very well. Now up next, this might be a slightly controversial pick, but I would put Fool's Gold in B tier here. I do believe that Fool's Gold can be a solid pick, especially on maps like the first one that comes to mind is Ever Sleeping. Is also a solid one. Basically, large maps that are very, very open are maps that are strong for Fool's Gold.
And that's fine because the meta that we've seen right now for tournament-wise has been typically always large map selections. And I think because of that, honestly, I think Fool's Gold should be higher. I'm not gonna lie. I think Fool's Gold should be higher. Not A tier, but I think he should be higher in B tier, to be honest. Like, Fool's Gold was consistently getting draws and had a lot of 3K potential. And it's because the meta is also kind of catering to him in a way where most of the maps that we pick, Lakeside, Moonlit, Chinatown, Ever Sleeping, those are the 4 most common maps that are always picked and that were always picked in this Koa. So I honestly think Fool's Gold should be a bit higher. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Higher in B tier, though. He's not A tier. I think, competitively speaking, he should be higher in B tier. Because he is just a hunter with draw potential. I don't think he has anything that would give him the push to win potential.
Now, the reason why this is because during the early game, he's able to throw his pickaxe and dash to it, which allows him to start a chase very, very early. So his early game chase is quite solid. In addition to the rock, he does have some semblance of map pressure if he's able to get it down, but sometimes the early game chase can be stalled out quite a long time, especially if Survivors are playing very strong transitional characters. I'm talking about like your forward, your cowboy, your mercenary, your patient, acrobat. These are all kind of characters that tend to be somewhat strong against Fool's Gold, but he does have a very decent camp, and in the late game does have quite a decent amount of mobility, which I believe puts Fool's Gold solidly in B tier. Now up next on this list, I put Spider. Spider is one that we actually saw in the final matchup of Koa 7. It was used to get a draw when possible.
Type shit.
Or, not Sculptor. Spider was one of those hunters that is very, very strong when you need a tie. In addition to this, she's able to, if she builds up her webs, can get some pretty fast downs. But the thing that makes Spider somewhat rough, at least as she currently stands in the meta, I know that she's going to be getting buffed soon, and we'll have to see how Spider stands after that. But the way Spider stands, she can be very effective to get ties, especially on maps like Lakeside and Chinatown are two of the particular ones that stand out to me the most. Up next on the tier list, I have...
Okay, his Weaver thing, I'm not gonna lie, the Weaver explanation was kind of like... I don't want to say it was like not fulfilling, but it was kind of basic because that logic can kind of apply to every other hunter. Like, I think Weaver should not be in B tier at all. I think Weaver needs to be in A tier. Like, I think like around the bottom of A tier, because Weaver just has... Weaver, if you play, a smart Weaver is literally a guaranteed draw. It's always a guaranteed draw. You face any competent Weaver, you are getting a draw. There's no doubt about that. It's not a maybe. It is always going to be a draw if you face a competent Weaver. And that's just because if she doesn't have a chase in the early game, she snowballs off that. Like, she benefits from not having a chase in the early game, because then when she finds a target and she has fucking 50 million webs ready, it's an insta down if she has blink. Like, it's snap of the fingers down just like that. So I don't think she's B tier. I think she's a guarantee, almost like you play her like perfected Weaver, it's always a guaranteed draw no matter what. And if the survivors fuck up, then you get your win. So I don't know, like, Weaver should not be in B tier. Like, Weaver's not comparable to like Lizard, Axe Boy, Mad Eyes, and Sculptor and comp, because Sculptor, you would think she has the tools to do that. Sculptor struggles from the syndrome of early game kiting, because people know how to abuse a Sculptor in the early game. They hard rotate and they support against her early game and just prevent her and shut her down from presence. And her chase, to be honest, without full press, kind of sucks unless you're trapping yourself in places where she can click buttons and get rewarded for it, which you really shouldn't be doing. So it's like, tourney wise, yeah, Sculptor down there with Axe Boy and them, it makes sense. Mad Eyes, though, he needs to be D tier. Fool's Gold needs to be a bit higher on the B tier list. And yeah, Sculptor, I think Sculptor should be higher in B tier, but I don't think she should be anywhere higher than B tier. It should literally be like Fool's Gold, then Sculptor, and then whatever the fuck else you have in B tier, sure, fuck it, I don't care.
A Breaking Wheel here. Now, Breaking Wheel is one of those characters, I'm going to call them very risky but winning picks. And there are a few hunters on this tier list that are like that. The first one that comes to mind is Breaking Wheel. Now, the reason why Breaking Wheel is not higher on this list is because of a variety of factors, but one of them being the prevalence of Flywheel. Flywheel is very good against his ability because survivors will be able to flywheel through traps. In addition to this, survivors can actually flywheel the snap if they time it properly, which makes playing,
okay, sure, those are valid.
At the competitive level, something that's a bit riskier. Now, if Wheel is able to get a very nice early game, this can actually lead to some snowball-y situations that we saw a lot when Wheel was up at the top of the meta. But nowadays, Breaking Wheel can struggle sometimes. In addition to this, Wheel is very map dependent. I really only see Wheel used on Chinatown, Ever Sleeping, and occasionally Moonlit, but Chinatown and Ever Sleeping are the two most prevalent ones for this hunter.
You know what? I can respect the Wheel in B tier. I can allow it. I can allow the Wheel in B tier, but that's assuming that the Wheel is shit. I'm like, yeah, it's literally what's easy. Like, if you take a good Wheel, I think is an A. Like a perfected Wheel, A tier. Like, no doubt, solid A tier. But like, I can, like, his reasonings make a bit of sense, but it's also it's not clear, because it's like, it's again the thing of like, a lot of these things follow up. It's like wheel gets countered by flywheel, so does Naiad, but Naiad is all the way up there. Like Naiad is literally the second highest thing on A tier. Like, what? BQ gets countered by flywheel. Like, so it's like the lot. Like, it's not. You know, like, am I crazy? Like, am I losing it here? Like, I'm just saying.
Up next, kind of in the same boat as Breaking Wheel, we have Hermit.
Absolutely not. Absolutely fucking not. Hermit is in no way, shape, or form in this competitive meta B tier. Absolutely not. There is no possible justification that you can make for Hermit being B tier in this meta. There's literally no justification possible. I'm sorry. I hate that motherfucker with my life. Like, if I could, I would strangle Hermit. Like, Hermit is not B tier. Like, I want everyone to understand, though, this list, looking at it from, like, this is not a bad tier list. There's just subtle hot takes in this tier list that, like, make it hard. That like, really make it stand out. Like, the general look of this tier list, it's not a bad tier list. It really isn't in the competitive state of things. There's just some hot takes. Like, really hot fucking takes.
Hermit is one of those hunters that can get away with having a bit of a slower early game, but he does require a lot of precision with what ciphers you decide to conjoin together. In addition to this, Hermit does sometimes struggle in the early game, but if he's able to get it down eventually, he's able to snowball quite quickly.
That's what happens
after he gets his first down. But there are a lot of situations where Hermit goes through the majority of the match struggling to get through the early game chase, and if a Hermit struggles to get that first down, that's where the survivors can end up in some really solid situations. So Hermit is one of those 4-man or no-man type hunters, generally speaking, in competitive, but can fight for a win a lot of the time. He's a very, very strong hunter. Very, very strong and competitive. So that's why I put the B-tier hunters where they're...
Most, if not every single Hermit that played in this co-op got a draw minimum unless they were just bad. Every single Hermit match that I watched ended up in a draw, if not for them pushing for a 3-man and getting it, and the survivors having to claw their way back for the draw.
They're at, and now up to 8, and at the bottom of A tier, I put Bonbon.
Sure.
Bonbon was one of those characters, Bonbon and Bloody Queen both, were both characters that I didn't know whether I wanted to put them at A tier or B tier.
Okay.
Bonbon is one of those hunters that is going to be one of the main tie comps.
Yeah.
Bonbon, especially if you go like Insolence, Detention, Blink, Bon can sometimes struggle a little bit in the early game if there are a lot of transitional characters, but if he's able to get it down, it's almost impossible competitively to get a rescue against a Bonbon, which is why he's very, very strong to fight for that tie. Now, if Bonbon does get a stuff on the camp, or if Bonbon gets 2 very, very fast downs, those are the ways that Bonbon can win. However, at the competitive level, more often than not, if we see a Bon come out, he's going to be fighting for a tie.
Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Bloody Queen, which is in a very similar boat, but for different reasons. Bloody Queen, just the way that her math works out with her mirrors, can able to get... If she's very accurate with her mirrors, can reliably get it down in her first 2 mirrors. But the reason why she sometimes struggles to fight for a win is that her ability is single use and has quite a hefty cooldown. Sometimes if she's able to get kind of an early game advantage, sometimes it can be tough to kind of snowball it into more, especially if survivors are able to communicate and kind of leave her
I'm okay with this.
Chase for a little while, especially after the first elimination. Sometimes survivors get the opportunity to re-heal, but she's usually able to get 1 down before the pop, and if she gets that elimination, a lot of times she'll be able to get 1 down with detention, and that's how most Bloody Queen matches go. She really struggles after the first down to actually turn something into a winning advantage as long as the survivor is
Okay.
keeping
Again,
it
I can
properly.
yeah, that's
But
fine. Okay.
she's very, very strong in
Type
tournament
shit.
as long as you're able, as long as you're looking to fight for a tie. Up next we have Geisha. Geisha is another one of those hunters that tends to fight for a tie, but has maybe slightly more winning odds than Bloody Queen, which is why.
I mean, I guess Geisha didn't perform that well this Koa though. Like, I can. I don't know. It's a 50-50 because on the one hand, it's like, yeah, there's
Geisha's
truth in
slightly
that
higher
statement
than
that there. I don't know why I'm pausing when I was gonna continue talking. I'm an idiot for that. But it's like, Geisha. It's like Geisha's in a weird spot for me simply because it's like, yes, by technicality, his statement is true, but it's also the thing of BQ is a more consistent case overall to get a draw compared to Geisha, where like you kind of need to coin flip it around and see, and maybe like Geisha didn't do well like this Koa, so it's like she kinda. I would honestly put her below Bonbon. Not gonna lie, I would put her below Bonbon. Like she's like barely scrapping right now. Again, Hermit and Wheel need to be higher. Geisha's the bottom of fucking A tier. Like Geisha's the bottom of A tier, and she's barely making it.
On this tier list, Geisha has quite a strong early game actually. Sometimes at the competitive level, it can be difficult to fight with the mechanics of Geisha, as she has to be very, very precise with her butterflies in order to get the dashes off properly. In addition to this, she does have some counter comps that are somewhat more difficult to go against, but in a meta of transitional kiters that we're seeing now, Geisha actually is very, very strong against transitional kiting, which is why I put her in A tier on this list.
Hold on. The meta's not transitional kiting. The meta is survivability. Zeus, aren't those two the same thing? No, they're not. Transitional kiting is just solely picking survivors that are good at gaining distance. Survivability are characters that are good at surviving. Let me take this. What are two characters I can think of? Fuck. Merc and Journal. Okay, yeah, sure, I guess. Yeah, Merc and Journal. I really gotta remember. I wish I could remember these characters by their names. I'm really about to just log into the game right now. But my perfect example actually. It's on the fucking screen. Wildling versus fucking Mercenary actually for this thing. Patient and Bomber. Yeah, exactly. Literally Wildling versus Mercenary right now. Why is it that we rarely ever see Mercenaries now in round 1, specifically against Opera? Because Mercenary does not have the survivability needed to deal with an Opera. He gets punished hard for just breathing and going to do his job, whereas Wildling can freely use his fucking boar every 30 seconds in order to keep himself alive whenever the Opera swaps targets to him. Because of his 15 to 8 second nerf, okay, that does play some part into it, but the main thing is the fact that a Wildling out-survives a Mercenary. That's why round 1, the only two rescuers that we really see are Wildling and Officer. Because Officers also has a higher survivability rate than a Mercenary, simply because the Opera can't chase an Officer if he has a watch. Whereas with Mercenary's elbow pads, it's a great transitional kiting tool, but guess what? It's a meta of speed demons, where hunters just go dash, dash, catch up. So it's like, yeah, thank you, Vina. Thank you for the food, sweetie. But yeah, The characters with small comps / rechargeable resources help so much around. Exactly. That's why we're seeing a spike in characters like Novelist, for example, who literally has a rechargeable book and is like, you know, every time he looks at you, guess what? He got a little book. He has his flying Rajin set up, like. So it's like it's not a meta. It's not like opera meta wise. It's not a meta of transitional kiting. It's a meta of fucking survivability. That's why Gardener is picked over characters like fucking who are good people. Gardener's picked over the likes of like shit like Forward and Priestess and whatnot, because Gardener can just survive longer and has more endgame tools to live longer compared to those characters.
Up next we have Clerk. Clerk I put slightly above Geisha here because Clerk is a very, very strong hunter. She's able.
Clerk got completely fucked. Am I going crazy? Because like Clerk got completely fucked every time she was played. Like it was actually like disgusting. Like Clerk is so formula. Clerk is not even anywhere. Clerk competitively should be down in C tier. Clerk unironically and competitively should be down in C tier. Cause Clerk lost to a. Thank you. Yeah, Clerk lost to a prisoner mech comp, bro. Like round 4 Clerk, and she got 3K'd. Like, am I tweaked? Like, Clerk competitively is not A tier. Steve Meta, thank you for the $2 Doni Ninja. For the $2 Dono Ninja. She used to be good, yeah. She used to be good. So it's like round 4 Clerk, bro. She got fucked. So Clerk, drop her down to C, bro. Drop her down to C.
Able to fight for a win in competitive. The main struggle that Clerk has is going for that early game chase. But if she's able to get that early game down, she's able to snowball like almost no other hunter on this tier list. Just the fact that she's able to survivors.
What did that boy just say? Huh?
Keep them off.
Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what did you just say?
Able to fight for a win in competitive. The main struggle that Clerk has is going for that early game chase, but if she's able to get that early game down, she's able to snowball like almost no other hunter.
Have we heard of Wax Artist? Have we heard of Naiad? Have we heard of Gamekeeper? Have we heard of Opera Singer? Have we heard of Anne? Have we heard of Hermit? Have we heard of Wheel? Well, am I going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Am I going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now? Did Burial play his Clerk this co-op? I don't think so. That's a Z's question. Z's watched every single match. I watched like 70% of the matches. Oh, had to come here because I see. Okay.
Here on this tier list. Just the fact that she's able to record survivors.
The thing is, she never got the down. Yeah.
Keep them off ciphers. It becomes a real struggle with the final pop. In addition to this, it's very, very difficult to actually get an exit gate opening.
Chat, I don't think you understand. I was literally I was literally like fixing my room curtain, and I literally heard that statement, and I jumped off the bed and slammed onto the floor and sat back down.
Against her. Because she's able to almost permanently lock them down whenever they get, whenever Clerk looks at a gate and records a survivor. It can be very, very difficult to actually open an exit gate, even if you have 3 survivors up during the pop, because she's able to keep a survivor occupied at the gate at the same time that she's able to chase with detention to get another down. So Clerk is one of those hunters that also, even though she's able to fight for those wins in the late game, if she has a struggle in the early game, if there are 4 survivors up by the pop, a lot of times survivors can actually get the win against her. So not quite S tier, but she is a...
What you just described doesn't even make her B tier. She can't get it down. She's literally a Joseph without the camera. Her chase is Blink. That is her chase. Her chase is Blink.
Very, very solid. Up next, I decided to put Wax Artist. Wax Artist is another one of those hunters that can sometimes struggle in the early game, but if he's able to get his max presence, he's able to deal quite some damage. Wax Artist is also very, very strong against some of the characters that are very prevalent here.
Okay, my favorite hunter.
I'm trying to think of particularly like Antiquarian. He does sometimes struggle a little bit against transitional kiters, but on the maps that he's good on, namely Moonlit, Lakeside, Chinatown, those are the main ones that come to mind.
Heck him.
Wax Artist can have a somewhat solid early game, and if he's able to get to max presence, he's able to really snowball very quickly. So Wax Artist is a very, very solid pick if you need to fight for a tie in a tournament.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I decided to put Anne. Anne is very, very popular and competitive now. Very
Yeah.
trendy. She has a fantastic early game with the cats. Can sometimes struggle. Once again, we're seeing if
Congratulations,
can be very, very strong. However, it requires a lot of precision, and if survivors make a mistake,
I agree. No, I also agree with Anne over Wax. I also agree with it. Anne is way more anti-meta than Wax is, because it's just easier to get the stun.
She actually has, I would argue, maybe the second strongest camping in the game, second to Bonbon. Well, I guess Hellumber has a very, very strong camp too, but you get the idea that Anne is actually very, very difficult to camp out, unless you have a survivor such as Coordinator or Wildling on the team.
Just break the pallet. Just break the fucking pallet.
So she's able to fight for a tie, but can have some winning advantages.
She should have pushed.
Situations. Now, up next, this might be slightly controversial, but I would put Dream Witch at A tier.
Competitively wise, yeah.
I don't believe is S tier anymore, but still very, very high A tier is because survivors at the competitive level are very, very prepped against her. There are also some comps that are prevalent in the meta currently that are very, very tough on Dream Witch. But Dream Witch is, right now, I would argue, probably the second most common pick in competitive to fight for a win. She's one of those hunters, basically the main hunter where the term snowballing comes from. If she's able to get a very strong early game, she's able to snowball.
Just contradicted yourself, by the way.
Very well, has very, very good mobility and map pressure, being able to put multiple hunters on the ground at once. She's able to, if she gets an early game lead, she's able to snowball quite quick.
Dream Witch in competitive has fallen off. She's I can be with her A tier, but she's not better than Anne. She's not better than Wax. Like, I'm sorry. Dream Witch is like mid A tier, like, for competitive. She has the same issue as Clerk, but makes up for it because there's 5 copies of her moving around the map simultaneously, which is why she's better. That's what it, like. But she has the same issue as Clerk, because if she brings Blink, she's just again a M1 hunter with Blink. If she brings Patroller, you know how to, in a competitive level, you know how to kite out Patrollers. It's at the 19, then 14, then 9, then 4, and that's it.
Her chase is pretty okay, not the best chase hunter in the game, but especially against inexperienced survivors.
I'm gonna put this shit on 2x speed.
Very strong. Her early game, there are also a lot of tricks involved with Dream Witch that you get to know the more you play her, that make her a solid competitive hunter. The main thing that makes her so good is her ability to monitor multiple ciphers at the same time, especially when it gets to one cipher remaining. The only main thing about Dream Witch is that sometimes the mid game can be very, very tough on her. If survivors are able to communicate properly, stay off the ciphers and regroup, it can actually be somewhat difficult to fight for a winning advantage, but still, Dream Witch is, I would say, probably the second most prevalent hunter to fight for a winning advantage.
No, that would be Gamekeeper, because it was literally Opera round 1, Gamekeeper round 2. That's literally how, like, that's literally how, like, day 6 through 12 went. Opera round 1, Gamekeeper round 2. Shit you not. That's quite literally how the matches went.
So up next we have Nightwatch. Nightwatch is a very, very solid competitive hunter.
I didn't understand. Okay, I'll compromise. I'll put it on 1.5 times.
At the competitive level, he does require a lot of precision, but he's used very commonly, especially on Lakeside, but can also be used a lot on Chinatown. He does very well in open maps, can have a very, very good early game, and overall, just from a competitive hunter mentality, it is not
Okay, Nightwatch up here, I can be okay with it.
quite
I
as
can be
difficult to play
okay
as
with
some
it.
other hunters on this list,
Sure,
which mainly
Nightwatch at a
because
competitive
he
level is
pretty consistent
consistently
when
drawing.
does his
He doesn't
things.
really struggle in the
Nightwatch is
chase
a very, very
aspect, he
solid
just doesn't have map
pick for
pressure.
competitive.
But I can be okay with
Next
this.
we have Naiad. Naiad is one of the main hunters to fight for a win in competitive now. The one struggle that Naiad sometimes has
Yes.
is against comps that have flywheel, but she's very good at blocking off the really good kiting areas in each map.
Yeah.
Some of her strongest maps, again, at the competitive level, Ever Sleeping, Chinatown. She's one of those hunters that's not quite as map dependent as some of the other characters though. So she's generally pretty strong anywhere. Has a deceptively quite decent camp and can exert a lot.
What do you mean
pressure
deceptively?
throughout the Harpoon
Her
block
camp
on
is insane.
ciphers. She is a very, very strong tournament pick to fight for a win. And next, I would say this hunter is probably the main hunter to use to fight for an advantage in a round 3 scenario, and this is going to be Smiley Face. Now,
Sprinter, round 3 versus Scars. I rest my case.
Now, Smiley Face is used very commonly. The two main hunters I can think of are Shoai and RC Aka. They are both fantastic clown mains, and Clown is one of those hunters that if he's able to get the early game, once again has very good chase and very good map pressure. He is also a very high skill cap character. There's so much you can do with Smiley to put a lot of pressure on the Survivor team. The only struggle is sometimes Smiley Face might struggle to find an early game chase in competitive if Survivors are able to communicate properly and are not extremely gung-ho on decoding so quickly. Survivors do have to play a very slow game against a Smiley Face, which can lead a lot of times to a lot of mistakes coming out if Survivors don't play properly, in which case...
In what situation is Smiley Face getting the down? Because the only two people that played Clown in Koa, there's 3 people. There was Aka, there was Choi, and then there was Sprinter. Sprinter lost. Aka was inconsistent, and Choi started off strong, and then it went down to draws and losses.
Smiley does have a very good snowball potential.
I'm gonna start my rank, but I hope you hit champ. I'll be lurking. Thank you for the $5 dono, Ninja.
Now, there are 3 hunters that I would argue.
Hey, Jan played him too. We don't talk about that man, Z's. We don't speak of him.
Here is Gamekeeper. Gamekeeper is one of the more recent hunters to be.
Gamekeeper S tier, yeah.
The main reason why is it's more like what the Survivors are picking. The Survivor comps right now are prioritizing characters that can take a lot of hits and characters that are able to have very strong transitional kiting, of which Gamekeeper is probably the top counter to transitional kiters. He's able to be used generally any map. He's not a super map dependent hunter, and the main thing that makes him good is he has a pretty good early game. He has a hook that has sometimes quite questionable logic, leading to some hooks that
questionable. Sometimes questionable logic.
Relatively recently got a buff that gives him unlimited hooks when he hits his max presence, which makes it so that he actually has very, very good mobility. So for these reasons, I am putting Gamekeeper at the bottom of S tier, maybe arguably like S- tier if you want to label it that way. But I would say that there is a big difference between Gamekeeper and the 2 hunters that I am putting at the top of my tier list. Now, at the top of the tier, or the second strongest hunter I'm putting on the tier list is going to be the new hunter Ivy. Now,
can't do it. Not allowed in competitive. Number 2, she's not S tier. She's B tier at best. Said it here. If you disagree, cry about it. I'm just saying. She's not even allowed in comp yet. You can't even put her on a competitive tier list. So whatever reasoning you have, invalid. And then at that, she's B tier. Her early game, horrendous. She cannot get it down. She literally, again, Clerk syndrome. Except she makes up with it in map pressure. The video wasn't made before the buffs. The video was made less than 24 hours ago. Oh, my food is here. What the fuck?
In this summer's IBT tournament for NAU, so I believe that Ivy will be used very commonly in the upcoming tournament. And I mean, the reasons are not so difficult to see. She's basically, I would argue, almost a better version of Dream Witch. She does have very, very strong map pressure, a very, very strong early game chase. The one way that Ivy sometimes struggles is in the middle game if Survivors are able to kind of communicate and regroup. She can sometimes struggle a little bit in the mid game, but overall, a very, very strong character. Also really, really strong against harassers, as the scares can interrupt almost
the food
interaction or animation that the Survivors are able to
good chat. I got food.
Which makes her a very, very consistent hunter to fight for a tie every single time, but also can fight for a lot of winning advantages out of stuff that for other hunters would be very tieable positions. And lastly, I'm putting Opera Singer at the top of the tier list for now. It'll be very interesting to see.
I don't think we need. I don't think we need to know why Opera's S tier.
We'll have to see how she performs in competitive.
I don't think we need to know why Opera Singer's S tier. I think if we all been watching Call, we know damn well why she's S tier and why she's the best hunter. But Ivy B tier, Clown fucking C tier, Hermit top of A tier, Dream Witch bottom of A tier, not bottom, Dream Witch mid A tier, Geisha bottom of A tier, Fool's Gold top of B tier, Sculptor second top of B tier. Yeah, because like absolutely not.